Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for being here. Such a Saturday, wonderful day to be outside, doing sightseeing. My lecture now is about artificial intelligence and some feedback for you, for doctors, about our experience in the lab. This is the agenda, the topics that I will go through, starting with some videos to show you how the, I'm not an expert on AI by far, I'm just an embryologist, but just how the artificial networks looks like in a computer that at the end are making, again, simple calculations, each one of the neurons to make at the end complex things that I will show you later. Every time that we evaluate any kind of technology, or in this case the algorithm, we would like to know how they work, and we used to use this confusion matrix to know the true positive, true negative, the accuracy of the technology, or even the R's under the cube that can help us to understand how they work, like I showed you yesterday. So let me go directly to the data, to the platforms that actually we're using. I have split the information in several parts, some of them related with the easiest way to apply AI. This is one of the tools that are available in the market. Like many of them, you don't need to have anything in the lab. You just need to access through a website, and you have your username and your password, and you just need to upload the images of the embryos, incorporate the data of the patient. Sometimes can be obtained from the EMR, and it takes you like a few minutes for each patient, but it's not a complex thing to do. And in this case of this technology, for example, Embrace, which is based in Europe, in Poland, you can work with images from just single images from the microscope, or even you can upload videos from the time-lapse system. So in both cases, it's a technology that works for everyone. So it's quite flexible. Again, you have your pictures of the embryos in the folder, you just upload there, and you wait a few seconds, and you have a result with different colors or different scores from 1 to 9.9 that can help you to select the embryo. So this type of technology, let's say this type of ways of evaluating the embryos are quite simple and quite easy to use everywhere. She's showing you how the report looks like with all the embryos and some of the scores. Well, we have been testing all of them in Valencia, in our clinic in Valencia, and this is an example of how it's related this score with the outcome. The higher the score, the better the outcome. This is implantation rate, and then some evaluation about the odds ratio of each unit of this technology, which is around 1.2, 1.5, like many of them. We can apply this technology also to help the embryologists doing the ICSI, and this is another example. You just need to put a digital camera in your microscope. Most of the labs, they have it already. And when the embryologist is doing the ICSI, the technology is identifying you by using colors, different sperm, and you may select the one that has the best color, which is the green one. Even each sperm has a value of units of quality that can be related with the outcome. We have been testing this technology. Also, we have presented some of this data during these years. We have seen a relationship between this score and the fertilization rate, the blastulation rate, not with the OPD rate. So we're still doing the testing of the system, but looks quite promising. But of course, many of the labs in the world, they have automatic platforms that are using time-lapse. And we are super believers of time-lapse technology in our clinic in Valencia. We are using some of the brands that are in the market, not all of them. And the reasons behind using this technology is not only that we like it like embryologists, and like one of the days, one of the CEO of the company told me that it's like our toy to play. It's not like that. We have very strong data. Actually, this data we published just last year. We take a look to our numbers in our clinic during 4 years. These are retrospective data, making a comparison between the standard incubator and the time-lapse incubators. It's around 5,000 cycles. And in our hands, always, the standard cycles and in oocyte donation, remember that we do a lot of oocyte donation in Spain, we always see better results when we culture our embryos in time-lapse, because of selection and because of culture conditions. And one of the reasons behind is the use of this technology, like the embryo selection using AI. This is one of the technologies, the AIDA score. We have just published last month a paper in fertility and sterility with more than 7,000 embryos analyzed with this technology. This technology, from a user's perspective, is very simple. You just need to put in front of the computer and in few seconds you have a score of each one of the blastocysts from 1 to 9.9. And we have done many evaluations about this. First of all, this technology is clearly related with the morphology. So our gold standard and this way to evaluate the embryos is very similar. The second thing is that we have seen a relationship between the score and the outcome in a multinomial logistic regression. The odds ratios of this technology, of these units of score, is around 1.2, 1.3, and is working in standard cycles and in oocyte donation cycles. The other information which is important is that we have been able to quantify this score, because many of the doctors in the clinic are asking us, okay, if the embryo has a score of 5, 6, 7, which is the outcome that I should expect? So we have made like this table to show to the doctors and the patients the relationship between this score and the outcome. And if you take a look to the numbers, the score is not the same if the patient is doing a fresh transfer or a frozen one, or is not the same if it's coming from a standard cycle or oocyte donation, which means that the same blastocyst with the same score can have a different outcome depending on the type of patient. And we demonstrate the reason behind, which is this slide, because we demonstrate that the quality of the cohort is conditioning the outcome. If the cohort has better quality, the outcome is better. It's not the same a patient with only one blastocyst with a nice score than one patient that has several blastocysts with good morphology and with high score. Let's say that the quality of the cohort is conditioning the outcome, and we demonstrate this mathematically. The other thing that we did was a comparison between the embryologist and this technology, the AIDA score. In general, we are quite in agreement. Around 60–70% of the cases we agree with the score, with the machine. There is more agreement in the standard cycles than in oocyte donation, which means that when we have more blastocysts to select, the disagreement is higher. And when the embryologist is choosing one embryo, which is the last part, in 80% of the cases, the AIDA score is offering an alternative. So, if we take a look to embryos, blastocysts, with the same morphology, but different AIDA score, with the cutoff value of 7, you may see that you can have an embryo with worse quality, morphologically, but with better outcome than another embryo with better quality but lower score, which means that if the embryologist is using only morphology, we may be doing mistakes in the embryo selection process. And this is better explained here. When the embryologist is choosing the embryo, which is this case, is like a mismatch between the embryo that is selected by the score and the embryo selected by the embryologist, the outcome is always lower. This is for AIDA score and this is for KID score. Take a look to this. We have normally between 6 to 7% less implantation potential if the embryo has been selected by the criteria of the embryologist and not by the score. So it's better to select by the score because the outcome is higher. The other thing that the community is asking is about the interpretability or the, let's say, to be open or to be crystal, to be to have some knowledge about the reasons behind this score, because we may be worried about this technology and that it's possible that we don't know why this technology or why AI is choosing one embryo or the other. So this is a very nice paper that we published in Nature, which is a very nice journal. I'm apologize, some of these slides are in Spanish. Anyway, Spanish is the second language in the world, so at least you can take a look to it. I will explain in English. In this paper, what we did was to make an explanation of the score of each one of the embryos. We use these things, this thing here, which is the heat maps. The heat maps are telling you which parts of the blastocyst are more informative to explain the outcome. And doing that, we were able to demonstrate in many of the embryos that some of the features, for example, the inner cell mass or the quality of the trophoctoderm, were conditioning in each embryo differently the outcome. So the idea of this technology is to make like a description of the features of each embryo that we are selecting and giving some feedback to the embryologist to know why this embryo is better than the other. When we do this, we are doing many things that are positive for the embryology, for the IVF, for the knowledge in general. Because first of all, we can give some information to the doctors or to the patients about the reasons behind the quality of each embryo by using AI. And the other is that we are potentially discovering, this is why this algorithm is called Discover, the reasons behind the quality of each blastocyst and some of the qualities that maybe we don't know that are important. This technology is giving us this feedback. So at the end, the difference of this technology, and I will say how it's important to introduce this type of algorithm, is that we are, first of all, identifying the features of the embryos that are important. Then we are generating images that are provided to the embryologist and the doctors about the parts of the embryos that are more informative or more related with the outcome. And then we can make many applications in the IVF world. First of all, to provide, to be more transparent to the patients. And second, to go a little bit forward of the IVF and understand the reasons behind the embryo quality. One of the hot topics, one of the interesting applications of AI in general is the possibility to know the euploidy. Why not? Why we don't need to do a biopsy to know the euploidy of the embryo. So there are many technologies in the market trying to do this. I'm showing you some of them that we have been trying in Valencia. This is the IMA. The IMA is using a software that is connected with the time lapse. And if you take a look to the embryo, each embryo has a score and behind has an euploidy likelihood. So it's not only that it's telling you which is the best embryo, it's also telling you which embryo you should select because of the chance of that embryo to be aneuploid. We have been testing this technology. It still is in the process of being introduced in the IVF world, but the data is quite interesting because initially the precision to identify an euploid embryo was around 90%. So this is not a diagnostic tool, but it's a tool that can help you to identify embryos with high risk to be chromosomically abnormal. There are other tools in the market. This is another very nice paper that we just published a few months ago in Nature, in which we were able to combine these two things, the quality of the blastocyst and aneuploidy risk in the same algorithm. They use videos of time lapse, and together with that, they make a score provided by the blastocyst to make a prediction of the euploidy rate. So the idea was to combine all these things to make at the end one score like this one that you can see here. The algorithm is called Bella, that is giving you the chance of that embryo to be euploid, and together with that, the quality of that embryo with a blastocyst score that is also taking a look to the inner cell mass and trophic ectoderm. So it's a combination of two things, images, videos, age of the patient, and it's giving you a full score that helps you to identify the embryo with more or less risk to be aneuploid. Very interesting, very nice publication. We also would like to take a look to the DNA that is in the media. And you have seen many things about the cell-free DNA, for sure. It's released by the blastocyst in the media, and we don't know the reason behind. We were just questioning if non-invasive PGTA is possible, and there are many companies that are trying to work with that, but we just did a very simple thing, which is the calculation of the amount of DNA in the media. We just culture our embryos during 5 days in the time-lapse incubator. When we finish the incubation, we take out the media and we quantify the DNA. Well, the first thing that we realize is the amount of DNA is very similar between the embryos that are euploid or aneuploid. And we always try to see a little bit more DNA, a little bit more only, when the embryos are cultured until day 6, not until day 5. More days in the culture, a little bit more amount of DNA. But if you go to the details about the amount of DNA, first of all, if you take a look, most of the cases, the amount of DNA in the media is very low. And if we go in detail, in 90% of the cases, the amount of DNA is less than the amount of DNA that is in one cell, which is 5 nanograms. So if we want to make a diagnosis using the media, keep in mind that in 90% of the cases, the amount of DNA is less than one cell. So we probably will not be able to cover the whole genome. And even only in 30% of the cases, the amount of DNA is more than 1 picogram. So it's really, really very small amount of DNA. And if you take a look to the distribution, most of the cases you see, the amount of DNA is close to 0. And when we have a lot of DNA, normally it's a possible contamination with granulosa cells. If we compare between the day of biopsy, normally in day 6 we found more DNA than in day 5, quite much more. But even again in day 6, in 80% of the cases, the amount of DNA is less than 1 cell. So if you want to analyze the whole genome using NGS, it should be quite difficult. We have been trying to correlate this with Euclid, I mean the amount of DNA that is in the media and the Euclid rate, and we haven't seen any difference. As you see, it's quite similar amount of DNA. And if we take a look to the amount of DNA and the quality of the embryo, we have realized about something that is quite obvious, which is that the worse is the quality of the embryo, the higher is the amount of DNA that I can find it. So more chance of some of the cells that can be damaged, some of the DNA can be released in the media, and then it can be identified. So the amount of DNA could be a good marker of embryo quality. Finally, we have some scores that are able to be used to select the embryos, but some of them, like the embryo weight, that has not been designed to that. If you take a look to the score, the better the score, the highest chance of that blastocyst to be euploid. And there is one technology called like Whisper that actually is not longer in the market that was especially designed to classify the blastocyst depending on the euploid risk, only using single images. We have been testing this technology, as you know, a clinic in Valencia, and nicely there was a relationship between the score and the chance of that embryo to be euploid. The odds ratio was 1.14, and this was a complex logistic regression analysis. And if we take a look to the R under the cube for euploid prediction, it was 0.75, which is quite decent. And even if you include morphology together with this AI algorithm, the capacity of prediction of euploid is slightly better. So to conclude about all this data that I have shown you, I've been trying to cover all the tools that are available now to use AI. First of all, we have images. Yesterday I showed images to analyze the oocyte quality with a relatively good capacity of prediction that can be used for oocyte identification and selection. That could be a good advice, especially in fertility preservation. This is for oocyte quality that I showed you yesterday, but I would like to underline here. Then, if you take a look to the AI and the application in embryos, it's nicely related with the morphology. So let's say our gold standard and AI are quite related. But if we take a look in detail to the data, there are differences in the scores. I mean, the same score could have different outcome depending on the type of patient. So we have to take this into consideration. We should consider the quality of the full cohort in order to know the outcome of each embryo. And in between the embryologist and AI, there is a very high coincidence. But still, when there is a discrepancy between the embryologist and the score, the outcome used to be better. So in general, also, this technology can be applied for euploid prediction. Does not substitute right now the classical PGTA, but is a good technology to identify embryos with more or less risk to be chromosomically aneuploid. And this is very interesting, potentially, to do applications right now. Finally, let me show you some of the team of embryologists that are working with me. This is the team of PhD students, and that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.